Hi guys, today, I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I'm on my way home from Chicago, but today I wanted to talk a little bit about labels and how they can be helpful or hurtful with our dog training. So I last week talked about the B.F. Skinner quote, "The rat is always right," which talks about how our learners, or in this case our service dogs, they really only do what they've been taught by the environment or by us or whatever. Our learners are a product of their environment. And so today I wanted to build on that a little bit. After I was driving to Chicago on Friday, I was listening to a podcast. Hannah Brannigan has a podcast called Drinking from the Toilet. If any of you guys are interested in listening to podcasts while you drive or do anything else, really. I drive. I listen to podcasts when I drive. But Hannah Brannigan was on, and on her podcast, she was interviewing Susan Friedman. And Dr. Susan Friedman is one of my favorites. She's got a full course on applied behavior analysis called Living and Learning with Animals. You can search all that on the internet. And she is fantastic. So she talks about using applied behavior analysis to change our learners' behavior. So in this case, our service dog. And she does a lot of work with dogs and species of all kinds. So she consults with zoos and all kinds of places. So her and Hannah were having a conversation about a lot of animal training things in general, but they got onto the topic of labels, which they often do whenever you're talking to Dr. Susan Friedman, because she is a big one on unlabeling our learners, because there is a problem with using a label like, even if we say a label such as aggressive or stubborn or stupid, and there isn't, even a good label like focused or drive. We hear that a lot in the dog world. My dog is high drive. And the problem with labels isn't so much the label itself. It is the fact that we need to define what that label means. So starting next week, we're going to start kicking off some information on working around distractions and getting your dog to focus and listen to you around distractions. And so we're going to be using a lot of labels, and we want to make sure that we're defining those as we go. Because if we're going to use a label like, let's just go with stubborn for our example of this podcast or of this video. So if I'm going to label a dog as stubborn, that is just a label that isn't really helpful. It doesn't define behavior. It doesn't define what my dog is doing that makes him so-called stubborn. So the label isn't a problem as long as we're all on the same page and we have defined the behavior. So when we are talking about a behavior, let's call it reactive. Maybe we'll switch to that label because we are going to hit reactivity inside our upcoming membership site, because I know a lot of people have trouble with their service dogs barking and lunging at other dogs, or even just barking at other dogs. So when we say my dog is reactive, we need to define what that means, because reactive just means your dog is reacting to the environment, and there are lots of ways an animal can react to the environment. So if we're going to label a dog as reactive, well, we need to define what that means. What behaviors make him reactive? Is your dog barking when he sees another dog? Okay, so the general term for, definition of reactive is a dog who sees a stimulus, like another dog or a person, and starts to bark. So we need to, whenever we're thinking about using these labels such as reactive, we need to take a step back and we need to really define what that means. What behaviors does reactive mean? Is it barking? Is it lunging? Is it pulling towards a distraction? And what types of distractions you need to define? Is it only large dogs? Is it only small dogs? Is it only dogs that are within 20 feet? Is it dogs that are within 15 feet? You need to define the behavior, because we can't fix reactive, but we can fix a dog who barks continuously whenever he sees another dog that is 15 feet away, and he doesn't stop barking until that dog leaves his eyesight. So when we start to talk about our dog training and we start to use words like, my dog is reactive, my dog is calm, my dog is stubborn, I want you to take a step back and I want you to define what that means. What behaviors are you seeing? What body language are you seeing? How do you define that label? So drive is another one that we see a lot in the dog training world, and any of the dog training groups, whether we're talking service dogs or search and rescue dogs or, anywhere where we're training dogs, we talk about the dog's drive level. And in some groups, it's a good thing, and in some groups, it's a bad thing. So a lot of times I tend to hear it in service dogs as the dog was too high drive to be a service dog. Okay, but what is a high drive dog? What does it mean when your dog has drive? We need to step back and we need to define that, because only by defining it can we move forward and train something. So moving forward, starting next week, we're going to have some more resources and some more videos on working around distractions. And then that is going to be a precursor and like a celebration for the opening of our membership site, where we're going to talk a lot about specifically reactivity, which I am going to define as a dog who barks when they see a specific stimulus, which generally is other dogs, but it could be people, it could be a sound, it could be anything really. A stimulus is just something that your dog notices. So I'm going to define reactive as a dog who barks upon seeing a specific stimulus. And that's what we're going to be talking about inside our membership site. But leading up to that, we're going to be talking a lot about working around distractions. In these videos, I have some free downloads coming for you guys and some other fun things. But what we're going to start talking about next week is working around distractions. And so a lot of people call that focus. I want my dog to focus. Okay, well, we need to define focus. I want my dog to be calm around distractions. We need to define calm. What does a calm dog look like? What is calm behavior? Because these are all good labels. I don't mind calling my dog focused and calm and reliable. What I want is you to define those things. So when you say your dog is calm, you say your dog is reactive, you say your dog is focused, you say your dog is stubborn. What does that mean? What does that look like? And what behaviors define that label? So that's very, very important. And so next week we're going to start jumping into distractions. So let me know if you guys have any questions at all. And this video is very short, but it was something that I was thinking about a lot after I was listening to that podcast. So again, if you guys are, if you like podcasts, Hannah Brannigan has a fantastic one. The early podcasts, the audio is a little bit rough. It gets better. But her podcast is fantastic. She interviews a lot of really great trainers, and she talks about a lot of really great training topics as well. But it was the one where she was talking to Susan Friedman that kind of made me think about all this again. And I've taken Susan Friedman's course, and she has bumper stickers that say "unlabel me," and it's a big topic for her, is defining the label that you're using for your dog. Because when we start to talk about the science behind dog training, we start to look at applied behavior analysis, and we start to talk about the science of behavior chain, how you have to be able to define and describe the behavior before you can really do anything else. So we see a lot of people who say, I want my dog to focus better around distractions. That's a super goal. That's a great goal. We need that from our service dogs. But you need to define what focus around distractions means for you. Does it mean that your dog is staring at you and ignoring all the distractions? Does it mean that your dog is calm around distractions? And if that's what you're looking for, then you need to define calmness. What does a calm dog look like to you? And so those are the kinds of things that I want you guys to start thinking about. So if distractions are a problem, distractions or reactivity are a problem, we're going to start working into that next week. And so this week, what I want you to do is step back, look at your behavior you're getting now. So if your dog is reactive, your dog is distractible, your dog is hard to focus, define that. Describe what that means. And then describe what you want instead. If you want calm and focused, describe what that means. Because until we define it and until we describe it, we cannot train it. So those are your 2 homework assignments, because starting next week, we're going to start talking about working around distractions and getting what I define as calm and focused, which I will tell you guys next week. So if you found this video helpful, of course, like it and share it. Throw any questions in the comments, because even if you're watching the replay, we are still happy to answer your questions. And I will see you guys next week, where we're going to start talking about working around distractions. So have a great day.